I'm late. I'm sorry for the delay. Ugh, there was chaos. And, well, because we're doing fairy tales, I had to make sure that my fairy tales info was up. But also, because we're doing fairy tales... Okay. This is the problem with doing this a little late. Because we were doing the fairy tales, I had some friends that wanted to join. Think it out, the frogs. Hello, frogs. I have the frogs all around me. They're enjoying themselves. It's a good time. But yes, say hello to the friends hanging out with us for this story. I'm probably going to want to update things. I feel bad. I was such a delay. But here we go. What? How is there? I just ran an ad. Okay, there's going to be an ad running here. Can you just run the ad? Well, it's doing a countdown. But I can't make it hurry up. So we'll have to wait for it. And I'll just write up my stories for now. What we're going to be reading. So last night we left off at The Good Little Mouse. That's what it was. Or The Little Good Mouse, whichever. Yeah, The Little Good Mouse. And then we have the next story that's going to be a long one is Graciosa and Percinet, which is also a long one. But before we get to that, I was going to read a recommended fairy tale. Now, I tried to find a longer, more eloquent version, but it's just a little short collection one. Let's double check. Yes, we'll save that for if and when Natsu joins us, since Natsu usually joins us later on. And that was his recommendation. But welcome everybody. I'm sorry for the delay, and I'm sorry for the ads about to be a pest. But I'm glad that we're in and we're doing our fairy tales again. We'll get cozy, a little less scary and spooky than our spoopy read earlier today. Oh, there we go. Now it's finally going, the ad. It's so annoying because I have to wait. I have to make sure I don't start anything new because the ad will interrupt it. But I also have to vamp. I have to wait for... have to make time for it to go. I think mayhaps it will be good to say something in the Discords. Yes, that says that. I will go in chatting. Sorry for late start. We go in now. Okay. That's probably not going to actually help much since there's already a live stream. It does the little alerts. But I feel bad. And the people that were probably like, ooh, Raven would be starting now. Would be like, Raven never started. But I am now. I'm here, I promise. Hello, Ryan Andrew. Hello. It's good to see you. Ugh, just adjusting so that we see all the little frogs. Look at the little frogs. Hi, Fett. Do you see my little frogs, Fett? There's so many little frogs. Had to bring them in for our cozy read. Okay. As soon as Natsu gets here, we'll prep for the Tir na Nog, the story of Neve and Ocean, which is like a Celtic myth. But yeah, this is the trouble. If you don't have a storybook pulled together, it's gonna have missing pieces, and it's not gonna be very collected. It's going to be summarized and maybe a bit kept at an arm's length. They're not going to be very full. But I've got a little blurb version of the story for him since he was asking for it. And now, we'll start with our first story from the Red Fairy book, Graciosa and Percinet. Guessing at pronunciations as usual. It's Turtle and Fetster. Hi, yes. Graciosa, yes? Yes. And Percinet. Marvelous. Hi, Bratty. Hello. Okay. Now we're reading Graciosa and Percinet. We jump right in. This is a long one, so we may need to take a break in the middle, but here we go. Once upon a time, classic start, there lived a king and queen who had one charming daughter. She was so graceful and pretty and clever that she was called Graciosa, and the queen was so fond of her that she could think of nothing else. Every day she gave the princess a lovely new frock of gold brocade or satin or velvet, and when she was hungry, she had bowls full of sugar plums and at least 20 pots of jam. Everybody said she was the happiest princess in the world. Now, there lived at this same court a very rich old duchess whose name was Grumbly. We're going to understand that's probably our villain then. Here we go. Damn, that's a lot of frogs. Yes. They wanted to be here for the stories. We'll have to find names for each of them. Okay, so Grumbly, though. She was more frightful than tongue can tell. Her hair was red as fire, and she had but one eye, and that not a pretty one. Her face was as broad as a full moon, and her mouth was so large that everybody who met her would have been afraid they were going to be eaten up, only she had no teeth. As she was as cross as she was ugly, she could not bear to hear everyone saying how pretty and how charming Graciosa was. So she presently went away from the court to her own castle, which was not far off. But if anybody who went to see her happened to mention the charming princess, she would cry angrily, "It's not true that she is lovely. I have more beauty in my little finger than she has in her whole body." Soon after this, to the great grief of the princess, the queen was taken ill and died, and the king became so melancholy that for a whole year he shut himself up in his palace. At last his physicians, fearing that he would fall ill, ordered that he should go out and amuse himself. So a hunting party was arranged, but as it was very hot weather, the king soon got tired, and said he would dismount and rest at a castle which they were passing. I have a feeling this is not the castle you want to go to, sir. This happened to be the Duchess Grumbly's castle. Yep. And when she heard that the king was coming, she went out to meet him, and said that the cellar was the coolest place in the whole castle if he would condescend to come down into it. Okay. So down they went together, and the king, seeing about 200 great casks ranged side by side, asked if it was only for herself that she had this immense store of wine. Oh, we're taking a turn about a wine talk. I was expecting this to go to, and she locked him up in the basement. Okay. Yes, sire, answered she. It is for myself alone, but I shall be most happy to let you taste some of it. Although I guess this is just very much reminding me of the cask of Amontillado, the Poe story we read not terribly long ago now. Oh yes, let's come talk about wine. Come into my cellar. Let's have wine. I hate you. Okay, sorry. It is for myself alone, but I shall be most happy to let you taste some of it. Which do you like? Canary, Saint Julien, champagne, Hermitage sack, raisin, or cider. Hello, had to step away for it. Oh, no worries, Turt. Hello, hello. Well, said the king, since you are so kind as to ask me, I prefer champagne to anything else. Then Duchess Grumbly took up a little hammer and tapped upon the cask twice, and out came at least 1,000 crowns. Ooh. What's the meaning of this? Said she, smiling. Then she tapped the next cask, and out came a bushel of gold pieces. I don't understand this at all, said the Duchess, smiling more than before. Okay, so she doesn't know what's going on in her own cellar? Then she went on to the third cask, tap, tap, and out came such a stream of diamonds and pearls that the ground was covered with them. Funky, okay. Ah, she cried, this is altogether beyond my comprehension, sire. Someone must have stolen my good wine and put all this rubbish in its place. Rubbish, do you call it, Madam Grumbly? Cried the king. Rubbish? Why, there is enough there to buy 10 kingdoms. Well, said she, you must know all those casks are full of gold and jewels, and if you like to marry me, it shall be yours. Okay, so it was all a ruse. We're not going cask Amontillado, we're going, hey, marry me instead, I got money. I'll punish your daughter this way. Anyway, and now the king loved money more than anything else in the world, so he cried joyfully, marry you? Why, with all my heart, tomorrow if you like. Maybe he loved money, maybe he liked money and she wasn't all that bad. I don't know. Maybe he liked that she was so silly with her little presentation. I had no idea. What is this? Diamonds? Rubbish. I'm here for wine. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. It sounds like she's having fun. Tomorrow if you like. But I make one condition, said the Duchess. I must have entire control of your daughter to do as I please with her. Nope. Nope. I'm not here for it. Nope. Okay. Oh, certainly, you shall have your own way. Let us shake hands upon the bargain, said the king. Idiot. So they shook hands and went up out of the cellar of treasure together, and the Duchess locked the door and gave the key to the king. When he got back to his own palace, Graciosa ran out to meet him and asked if he had had good sport. 17 red flags right there. Yeah. The specific wording of that as well, like you could have said, I want to be in charge of your daughter, or I want to be in charge of parenting her, punishing her, whatever. No, you had to go with, I want to do as I please with her. Okay. Okay, Grumbly. Anyway. Alright. Yes, Graciosa asks if he had had good sport. I have caught a dove, answered he. Aw, cute. See, it sounds like he is excited about his new wife and doesn't care as much as... Anyway, but okay. I want to paint Dad in a nice role. This king, he's going to have a nice tint to him. The story written by the people that are going to be upset, they're not giving him enough credit, and Grumbly, though, yeah, no, divided on how bad their description of her was. Okay. Oh, do give it to me, said the princess, and I will keep it and take care of it. About a dove, you know. I can hardly do that, said he, for, to speak more plainly, I mean that I met the Duchess Grumbly, and I have promised to marry her. You have met her? You probably should have met her before, considering she was living in the castle before. Hi, Tetra. Hello. Say hi to all my frogs. Oh, and you call her a dove? Cried the princess. I should have called her a screech owl. Why is everyone so mean to owls in these stories? Owls are great. They like to call like the owls ugly, and I'm like, they are adorable. Do you not see those like saucers for eyes and just go, I love it. I have all of the cute aggression. 'Cause that's how I feel. But no? Okay. Okay. Hold your tongue, said the king very crossly. I intend you to behave prettily to her. So now go and make yourself fit to be seen, as I'm going to take you to visit her. Who? 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 Okay, sorry. So the princess went very sorrowfully to her own room, and her nurse, seeing her tears, asked what was vexing her. Alas, who would not be vexed, answered she, for the king intends to marry again, and has chosen for his new bride my enemy, the hideous Duchess Grumbly. Why is she your enemy when, as far as you know, she just didn't want to be around the people that, like, obsessed over you? She removed herself from the situation. You're gonna call her your enemy? Although at the same time, she hated a baby, so that's also a problem. So, I don't know. Hi, Gage. All right. Who would not be vexed? Duchess Grumbly. Oh, well, answered the nurse, you must remember that you are a princess, and are expected to set a good example in making the best of whatever happens. You must promise me not to let the Duchess see how much you dislike her. I see who you are. You are my enemy. My enemy, you are my enemy. Can you be specific about what that quote is? Because it's scratching my brain. Oh, sorry. Nurse has a good... It's Jamie Foxx, right? Yeah. Okay, so the nurse, you must remember, that's good advice from the nurse. Hey, you're a princess, you're expected to set a good example, so I know you don't like her, but let's try and go with it. To be fair, the nurse doesn't know about the weird wording that Duchess Grumbly requested control over the princess with, but anyway. At first, the princess would not promise, but the nurse showed her so many good reasons for it. Yeah, that in the end she agreed to be amiable to her stepmother. Then the nurse dressed her in a robe of pale green and gold brocade, and combed out her long, fair hair till it floated round her like a golden mantle, and put on her head a crown of roses and jasmine with emerald leaves. Oh, from TikTok. Oh, okay. I was thinking from Spider-Man. When she was ready, nobody could have been prettier, but she still could not help looking sad. Meanwhile, the Duchess Grumbly was also occupied in attiring herself. She had one of her shoe heels made an inch or so higher than the other, that she might not limp so much. Oh, well, hey, she's trying, good for her, and put in a cunningly made glass eye in the place of the one she had lost. Cool. She dyed her red hair black, and painted her face. Well, I mean, red hair isn't a problem, but okay, and you put on your makeup, cool. Then she put on a gorgeous robe of lilac satin lined with blue, and a yellow petticoat trimmed with velvet ribbons, and because she had heard that queens always rode into their new dominions, she ordered a horse to be made ready for her to ride. Sounds like she's really trying here, and we're getting very specific about that, so that's interesting. While Graciosa was waiting until the king should be ready to set out, she went down all alone through the garden into a little wood, where she sat down upon a mossy bank and began to think. And her thoughts were so doleful that very soon she began to cry. And she cried and cried and forgot all about going back to the palace, until she suddenly saw a handsome page standing before her. He was dressed in green, and the cap which he held in his hand was adorned with white plumes. When Graciosa looked at him, he went down on one knee and said to her, Princess, the king awaits you. Yes, all the crying. The princess was surprised. And, if the truth must be told, very much delighted at the appearance of this charming page, whom she could not remember to have seen before. Thinking he might belong to the household of the Duchess, she said, How long have you been one of the king's pages? I am not in the service of the king, madam, answered he, but in yours. In mine, said the princess with great surprise. Then how is it that I have never seen you before? Ah, princess, said he, I have never before dared to present myself to you. But now the king's marriage threatens you with so many dangers that I have resolved to tell you at once how much I love you already, and I trust that in time I may win your regard. I am Prince Percinet, of whose riches you may have heard. You have riches, and yet you're a page. And you just suddenly are like, I'm in love with you, but I would never have told you until now your life is threatened, and I don't... This is a weird choice for a fairy tale. This feels like way too just normal politics bullshit. What is happening? Okay. And I'm Prince Percinet, of whose riches you may have heard, and whose fairy gift will, I hope, be of use to you in all your difficulties. If you will permit me to accompany you under this disguise. Oh, it's a disguise, okay. Ah, Percinet, cried the princess. Is it really you? I have so often heard of you and wished to see you. If you will indeed be my friend, I shall not be afraid of that wicked old duchess any more. So they went back to the palace together. And there Graciosa found a beautiful horse, which Percinet had brought for her to ride. As it was very spirited, he led it by the bridle, and this arrangement enabled him to turn and look at the princess often, which he did not fail to do. Indeed, she was so pretty that it was a real pleasure to look at her. And when the horse which the duchess was to ride appeared beside Graciosa's, it looked no better than an old cart horse, and as to their trappings, there was simply no comparison between them, as the princess's saddle and bridle were one glittering mass of diamonds. The king had so many other things to think of that he did not notice this, but all his courtiers were entirely taken up with admiring the princess and her charming page in green, who was more handsome and distinguished looking than all the rest of the court put together. This is just a giant story about comparing yourself to others and all of your envy and such. Where are the fairies? You know? Okay. When they met the Duchess Grumbly, she was seated in an open carriage, trying in vain to look dignified. The king and the princess saluted her, and her horse was brought forward for her to mount. But when she saw Graciosa's, she cried angrily, If that child is to have a better horse than mine, I will go back to my own castle this very minute. What is the good of being a queen if one is to be slighted like this? Fairies are asleep at this time of day. Oh, bratty. No, it is quite the opposite. They are up. They are going. Upon this, the king commanded Graciosa to dismount and to beg the duchess to honor her by mounting her horse. The princess obeyed in silence, and the duchess, without looking at her or thanking her, scrambled up upon the beautiful horse, where she sat looking like a bundle of clothes, and 8 officers had to hold her up for fear she should fall off. Even then she was not satisfied, and was still grumbling and muttering, so they asked her what was the matter. I wish that page in green to come and lead the horse, as he did when Graciosa rode it, said she very sharply. And the king ordered the page to come and lead the queen's horse. Percinet and the princess looked at one another, but never said a word. And then he did as the king commanded, and the procession started in great pomp. The duchess was greatly elated, and as she sat there in state, would not have wished to change places even with Graciosa. But at the moment when it was least expected, the beautiful horse began to plunge and rear and kick, and finally to run away at such a pace that it was impossible to stop him. At first the duchess clung to the saddle, but she was very soon thrown off and fell in a heap among the stones and thorns, and there they found her shaken to a jelly, and collected what was left of her as if she had been a broken glass. Her bonnet was here and her shoes there, Her face was scratched and her fine clothes were covered with mud. Never was a bride seen in such a dismal plight. They carried her back to the palace and put her to bed, but as soon as she recovered enough to be able to speak, she began to scold and rage, and declared that the whole affair was Graciosa's fault, that she had contrived it on purpose to try and get rid of her, and that if the king would not have her punished, she would go back to her castle and enjoy her riches by herself. Now they just decided this is too much of a shit show, Lamel. You know, I get the feeling that this is not a fairy tale. This is like just an old-timey Am I the Asshole Bridezilla post, essentially. Like, am I the asshole? My dad's marrying this woman who's like ugly as shit. And like she left because she thought I was too pretty and now they're gonna get married. And so like I got severely dressed up and like totally decked out when it's supposed to be her wedding day and all that, but who cares? I'm the princess. I matter. And then she made a whole stink and she threw a whole tantrum to try and get my pretty horse and have my date walk her in because he's also pretty. And like, so then the horse kicked her off and like hurt her. That's not my problem. Like it's entirely how I'm reading it right now. Because this is just too real. This is not fun, fairy nonsense. This is just like actually them fighting and both being a problem. Neither of you are good. Neither of you are doing the right things. But okay, here we go. So she said she's going to go back to her castle and enjoy her riches by herself. Which, to a degree, that's fair. You don't want to put up with this shit, then remove yourself from the situation. But also, I'm not having a good enough time. I'm gonna call off the wedding if I'm not the prettiest one here. It's also a bit of a choice. Okay. At this, the king was terribly frightened, for he did not at all want to lose all those barrels of gold and jewels. Which, if this is the daughter writing this, she's like, he just likes her for her money. Okay. You make your assumptions. Maybe your dad has choices that are his. Like, leave him alone. But okay. So he hastened to appease the Duchess and told her she might punish Graciosa in any way she pleased. That would totally be the excuse of the daughter if the dad was like, yes, you can punish her as you want. And she'd be like, Dad, why would you betray me? Oh, because you just don't want to lose her money. I get it. I know what's going on. Yeah, the screaming. That's perfect. Okay, sorry. Thereupon, she went for Graciosa, who turned pale and trembled at the summons, for she guessed that it promised nothing agreeable for her. She looked all about for Percinet, but he was nowhere to be seen, so she had no choice but to go to the Duchess Grumbly's room. She had hardly got inside the door when she was seized by 4 waiting women, who looked so tall and strong and cruel that the princess shuddered at the sight of them. This is the bridesmaids, that's all. The bridesmaids cornered her and are gonna call her out for her nonsense. I'm sorry, this is reading way too much like one of those. Okay. She shuddered at the sight of them, and still more when she saw them arming themselves with great bundles of rods, and heard the Duchess call out to them from her bed to beat the princess without mercy. Okay, that took a turn. That's a bit... No, okay. Poor Graciosa wished miserably that Percinet could only know what was happening and come to rescue her. But no sooner did they begin to beat her than she found, to her great relief, that the rods had changed to bundles of peacock's feathers, and though the Duchess's women went on till they were so tired that they could no longer raise their arms from their sides, yet she was not hurt in the least. So they beat you with feathers. Okay. All right. However, the Duchess thought she must be black and blue after such a beating, so Graciosa, when she was pleased, pretended to feel very bad, and went away into her own room, where she told her nurse all that had happened, and then the nurse left her. The nurse who had given the only good advice so far left her, with no note So maybe the nurse was done with her bullshit, but also maybe was like, I can't with anybody here. I don't know. Nurse left her, and when the princess turned round, there stood Percinet beside her. She thanked him gratefully for helping her so cleverly, and they laughed and were very merry over the way they had taken in the Duchess and her waiting maids. But Percinet advised her still to pretend to be ill for a few days, and after promising to come to her aid whenever she needed him, he disappeared as suddenly as he had come. The Duchess was so delighted. Oh my goodness. The Duchess was so delighted at the idea that Graciosa was really ill that she herself recovered twice as fast as she would have done otherwise, and the wedding was held with great magnificence. Now, as the king knew that, above all other things, the queen loved to be told that she was beautiful, he ordered that her portrait should be painted, and that a tournament should be held, at which all the bravest knights of his court should maintain against all comers that Grumbly was the most beautiful princess in the world. Numbers of knights came from far and wide to accept the challenge, and the hideous queen sat in great state in a balcony hung with cloth of gold. Yawn attacks. Cloth of gold. A balcony hung with cloth of gold to watch the contests, and Graciosa had to stand up behind her where her loveliness was so conspicuous that the combatants could not keep their eyes off her. But the queen was so vain that she thought all their admiring glances were for herself, especially as, in spite of the badness of their cause, the king's knights were so brave that they were the victors in every combat. However, when nearly all the strangers had been defeated, a young unknown knight presented himself. He carried a portrait, enclosed in a bow encrusted with diamonds, and he declared himself willing to maintain against them all that the queen was the ugliest creature in the world, and that the princess whose portrait he carried was the most beautiful. They're just here to stir up some shit. So, one by one the knights came out against him, and one by one he vanquished them all. And then he opened the box and said that, to console them, he should show them the portrait of his queen of beauty. And when he did so, everyone recognized the Princess Graciosa. The unknown knight then saluted her gracefully and retired, without telling his name to anybody. But Graciosa had no difficulty in guessing that it was Percinet. As to the queen, she was so furiously angry that she could hardly speak, but she soon recovered her voice and overwhelmed Graciosa with a torrent of reproaches. "What?" she said. "Do you dare to dispute with me for the prize of beauty, and expect me to endure this insult to my knights? But I will not bear it, proud princess. I will have my revenge." "I assure you, madam," said the princess, "that I had nothing to do with it, and am quite willing that you shall be declared Queen of Beauty." "Ah, you are pleased to jest, popinjay," said the queen, "but it will be my turn soon." The king was speedily told what had happened, and how the princess was in terror of the angry queen, but he only said, "The queen must do as she pleases. Graciosa belongs to her." And I mean, that was part of their deal. And also this just reads as, so petty, all of them, just petty princess politics. Okay. The wicked queen waited impatiently until night fell, and then she ordered her carriage to be brought. Ooh. Beep. Actually, we might as well take a quick break for triggers, I realize. It's pretty good timing for that. Let's do the triggers. So we've had that they've yelled at each other after the challenge, and we'll get back to it soon. First one we have up is scissor snips, so we'll start there. Thank you for submitting your redeem requests while we're doing the story, so we can jump right into them. There we go. Alright, we start with the scissors. There we are. Okay. Okay, there's our scissors. Cage, I don't keep attendance. You're fine. Okay, sticks rustle. We'll do sticks rustle. All right. Noisy. Okay, there's the sticks rustle. Yeah, Turtle Boy, I'm glad you read that. I was trying to find. I think eventually I'll do like Greek stories, the Greek mythologies. It might be a long ways away, but I think I'm gonna end up reading the Apollo stories with the raven included. That was where that poem kind of got inspired from eventually. I was trying to find proper collections somewhere, but I couldn't find it. Um, so hopefully I'll not fumble it as much. But I'm glad you watched it. And yeah, those are interesting morals at the end. Thanks that you think it's a nice sound, Rabbit Imperial Guard. Thank you. And hi, Mr. Dead242. Welcome in. Thank you for the redeem. I'm not totally sure if I'll get to it, since we've got a few to go through, but if I don't get to it now, I'll get to it in the next one. Because we'll do a few more redeems, and then we'll do the rest of this story, and then we'll do redeems again, and then more stories. Anyway, okay. Keys next. Yes, keys. Where are my keys? Okay. It's alright. How have you been? I've been pretty good. A little bit chaotic, getting all the things sorted, but I've been good. I hope you all are doing well too. How are you doing? While I type this out, where did it go? There it is. How is everyone doing? Here we go. I have keys. Here we go. Noisy. There was our keys. And I think I'll do chain and maybe bottle blow, maybe not. But alright, do. Chain is up next. I'm glad you had a fun time hanging out with the friends. And yeah, welcome in looking for something to put something on while you fall asleep. That's hopefully this is perfect for that, as Cage says. I forgot all about moles. Do they still have orange Julius thingies? That's a good question. Do they? But thank you for coming in. Thank you for the compliment, Turtle Boy. You're always so nice about that. Yeah, hopefully everybody gets cozy, settled in. We're doing a few more redeems. Yeah, I'll do bottle blow, and then I'll do the next ones at the next break. And then we'll get to stories, and it'll be sometimes a little bit unhinged, because my gosh, these old stories, they go in all kinds of directions. I'll be fair, not usually petty, old-timey Reddit posts, basically, but they go into various directions. So I might get a little bit more animated at that point, but still just cozy, snuggled up reading, and lots of redeems in between things. Alright, the chain. Yes. Here we go. watching. And now I'll do the bottle blow before we do the next story, but I'll get to the next redeems as soon as we are done that story section. Okay. The bottles can take a lot of air, so I gotta adjust myself. Okay. Here we go. Ooh, sorry, too loud. Okay, that will be our bottles. I'm gonna put them back. Alright. Forgot about malls. I think they got rebranded to Dairy Queen, but yeah, I think they still do it. To be fair, I live in the middle of nowhere, and one mall consists of 3 defunct vape shops, a bar, and a DMV. Well, I live in the forest. I has no malls. But, yes, the various ways. The places that have just a little strip mall, and the places that have all the big malls, or one big mall, all those different options are such interesting different places to live between those 2 points, those 2 spectrums. Okay. Now I want to try and find should I go and try and find them? Okay. I should get one of those orange drink dealies. Yeah. There you go. Okay. That's what I'm thinking too. But it might be a minute. Okay. Alright, we're gonna... Oh, right. Yes, I need to do that. Change. We're back to Graciosa and Percinet. And I forgot to capitalize Graciosa. There you go. I grew up in a town that had a mall built there during my childhood. It was a lot less appealing over time. For a while, it was the place to be. Yeah, the first mall in a town, that is going to be the coolest for a long while. But then it's like, no, not anymore. Never been to the Evergreen Mall. If that's a reference to something, you're going to have to help me. Is that supposed to be in my Emerald Lake? The Evergreen Mall? 'Cause tree? I have not to an Evergreen Mall. Live by multiple malls near me in a 30-minute drive. Ooh. Good for you. Sorry, joke. Yeah, just a joke. I'm sorry, I'm slow to pick up on it. I got there eventually. But I take a minute sometimes. Okay, they were yelling at each other, and the king was like, too bad, so sad. Graciosa belongs to the queen. You're gonna have to deal with it. Life sucks. Moving on. Okay. Yes. The queen waited impatiently until night fell, and then she ordered her carriage to be brought. Graciosa, much against her will, was forced into it, and away they drove, and never stopped until they reached a great forest 100 leagues from the palace. Ooh. Yawn. Okay, sorry. This forest was so gloomy. Duchess Grumbly to the gloomy forest? No? Yes, Grumbly is her name. I had to remember what weird name she has. Grumbly took her to the gloomy forest. Okay. No way. This forest was so gloomy and so full of lions, tigers, bears, and wolves. We were robbed. Yellow Brick Road didn't have wolves. There should have been a wolf. Exactly, Cage. Exactly. Oh my. Okay, sorry. It's full of lions and tigers and bears and wolves that nobody dared pass through it even by daylight. And here they set down the unhappy princess in the middle of the black night and left her in spite of all her tears and entreaties. The princess stood quite still at first from sheer bewilderment. They had the wolves to be legally distinct. I have a feeling that this story is a good deal older than The Wizard of Oz, so I don't think that they had to worry about copyright at that point. But, okay. Shh. Okay, I'll shush. There they left the unhappy princess in the middle of the black night and left her in spite of all her tears and entreaties. The princess stood quite still at first from her sheer bewilderment, but when the last sound of the retreating carriages died away in the distance, she began to run aimlessly hither and thither, sometimes knocking herself against a tree. Do you mean she tripped sometimes, or that she ran into a tree fully intentionally? Because those are two different things. Sometimes tripping over a stone, fearing every minute that she would be eaten up by the lions. She didn't have a worry about the tigers, bears, or wolves, though? Okay. Presently, she was too tired to advance another step, so she threw herself down upon the ground and cried miserably, "Ah, Percinet, where are you? Have you forgotten me altogether?" Fetster, you're confused? I'm surprised. This is not nearly as bad as some of our other stories, but it do be a doozy. Oh yeah, she's calling for Percinet. Ooh. Ooh, you live with rich people, Malls. Ooh, Mr. Dad. Confirmed, this story is 83 years older than The Wizard of Oz. Wait, did you look this up? What? Let me check. This book was published in 1890. And Wizard of Oz. Oh my gosh, is that how you did it? Oh my gosh. It probably is. To be fair, I think someone else knew it before Andrew Lang, but probably with copyright and such. Andrew Lang was the one that got to have the copyright on it. The original story was older than that published. Oh, for sure. But Andrew Lang got to copyright it, if anybody. 1856. Ooh. That's the first one? Nice. I bet there's still a version of it even older, because that is the way of these stories. But anyway. Alright. Where were we? Oh, Percinet, where are you? Yes. That's the date on an illustration of them. Ooh, cool. I don't have an illustration. I want to see the illustration. She calls for Percinet. She had hardly spoken when all the forest was lighted up with a sudden glow. Every tree seemed to be sending out a soft radiance, which was clearer than moonlight and softer than daylight. And at the end of a long avenue of trees opposite to her, the princess saw a palace of clear crystal which blazed like the sun. At that moment a light sound behind her made her start round, and there stood Percinet himself. "Did I frighten you, my princess?" said he. "I come to bid you welcome to our fairy palace, in the name of the queen, my mother, who is prepared to love you as much as I do." Aha! So he was the fairy. I'm on board. But also, if we're going with the oh hello, Sakuna Iduin, hello. If we're going with that, this is all a terrifying Reddit post in olden times. This is coming across a little bit like the prince instigated a few of these instances where the princess and the queen fought. So it's feeling just a little bit like the prince was intentionally trying to drive her from her family to get her isolated and have her for himself. You know, very red flag behaviors. Just seeing. I wanted to game for a bit, but Raven's voice is too much power. I'm sorry, but also not. But also sorry, because I would like for you to be able to do the things you want to do. But I'm glad I like that I have a power. I like that it makes you sleepy. It's a compliment that you fall asleep. I appreciate. Lahonk is murderous, as usual. So typical, Lahonk. But okay. Do you like my frogs, Lahonk? Anyway. Wait, you mean your malls don't have a bar right next to a DMV and veil shops? Vape shops, probably? How do you get drunk while registering for your car inside a bubblegum nicotine cloud? I mean, doesn't that mean listening to you is a thing he wants to do? Aw, I guess so. I suppose. Oh. Hi, Dorkstar. Welcome back in. Weaponized Lahonk. I feel like we could easily just find a target for Lahonk to go be murder rubber duck towards. We could do that. Hi. I've already slept, so no sleep for me. Ooh. You is dancing a wake frog. You is a wake frog. And Lahonk says murder. Okay, I'm thoroughly distracted from the story here. And we're gonna have to snooze or figure out an ad here in a minute because I've gotta read. An ad's gonna start. But okay. Oh, good. We got an extra snooze on that. I'll hit one right now. Okay, I need to focus so that we get through the story. All right. Cage joining the murder. Okay. I'm a little concerned. There's a little bit of a red flag that Percinet participated in driving apart from the family and then was like, okay, now that you've been thrown out of your family and are in the forest, we'll do this. Turtle boy. Okay. Cage, can you set that up? I don't know how to make that happen. Okay. Or I used to know, but I don't remember right now. We will focus on story. You got this. Thanks, Fet. Okay. That's our first emotes only chat redeem. I'm pleased. Okay. Focusing. Alright. So Percinet finds her in the forest. "Did I frighten you, my princess?" said he. "I come to bid you welcome to our fairy palace, in the name of the queen, my mother, who is prepared to love you as much as I do." The princess joyfully mounted with him into a little sledge drawn by 2 stags, which bounded off and drew them swiftly to the wonderful palace, where the queen received her with the greatest kindness. And a splendid banquet was served at once. Graciosa was so happy to have Percinet and to have escaped the gloomy forest and all its terrors that she was very hungry and very merry, and they were a gay party. After supper they went into another lovely room where the crystal walls were covered with pictures. The princess saw with great surprise that her own history was represented, even down to the moment when Percinet found her in the forest. This is a little concern, a little bit sus. Thank you for the sus emote, Lahonk. "Your painters must indeed be diligent," she said, pointing out the last picture to the prince. They are obliged to be, for I will not have anything forgotten that happens to you, he answered. Okay, I'm uneasy with that, but okay. When the princess grew sleepy, 24 charming maidens put her to bed in the prettiest room she had ever seen, and then sang to her so sweetly that Graciosa's dreams were all of mermaids and cool sea waves and caverns, in which she wandered with Percinet. But when she woke up again, her first thought was that, delightful as this fairy palace seemed to her, yet she could not stay in it, but must go back to her father. When she had been dressed by the 24 maidens in a charming robe which the queen had sent for her, and in which she looked prettier than ever, Prince Percinet came to see her, and was bitterly disappointed when she told him what she had been thinking. He begged her to consider again how unhappy the wicked queen would make her, and how, if she would but marry him, all the fairy palace would be hers, and his one thought would be to please her. But in spite of everything he could say, the princess was quite determined to go back, though he at last persuaded her to stay 8 days, which were so full of pleasure and amusement that they passed like a few hours. On the last day, Graciosa, who had often felt anxious to know what was going on in her father's palace, said to Percinet that she was sure that she could find out for her. She was sure that he could find out for her, if he would, what reason the queen had given her father for her sudden disappearance. Percinet at first offered to send his courier to find out, but the princess said, "Oh, isn't there a quicker way of knowing than that?" "Very well," said Percinet, "you shall see for yourself." This is going to be some kind of magic, okay. So they went together to the top of a very high tower, which, like the rest of the castle, was built entirely of a rock crystal. There the prince held Graciosa's hand in his, and made her put the tip of her little finger to her mouth. So, are you calling her fingers generally little, or are you saying put her finger to her mouth? Because I'm just... I'm sorry, I'm distracted. All I'm thinking is the $1 million. Is this Mr. Evil? No? Okay. All right. Okay, so put your little finger to your mouth and look towards the town. And immediately she saw the wicked queen go to the king, and heard her say to him, "That miserable princess is dead, and no great loss either. I have ordered that she shall be buried at once." Wow, okay. What are you going to bury if you don't have a body? Okay. And then the princess saw how she dressed up a log of wood and had it buried. Wow, all right. And how the old king cried, and all the people murmured that the queen had killed Graciosa with her cruelties, and that she ought to have her head cut off. Ooh, all right. When the princess saw that the king was so sorry for her pretended death that he could neither eat nor drink, she cried, "Ah, Percinet, take me back quickly if you love me." And so, though he did not want to at all, he was obliged to promise that he would let her go. "You may not regret me, princess," he said sadly, "for I fear that you do not love me well enough. But I foresee that you will more than once regret that you left this fairy palace where we have been so happy." See, that sounds like a threat, Mr. Dude. You're all kinds of frickin' concerned. But all right. But in spite of all he could say, she bade farewell to the queen, his mother, and prepared to set out. So Percinet, very unwillingly, brought the little sledge with the stags, and she mounted beside him. But they had hardly gone 20 yards when a tremendous noise behind her made Graciosa look back, and she saw the palace of crystal fly into a million splinters, like the spray of a fountain, and vanish. "Oh, Percinet," she cried, "what has happened? The palace is gone." "Yes," he answered, "my palace is a thing of the past. You will see it again, but not until after you have been buried." This man feels super... why did it have to shatter? This feels super manipulative and concerning. Sorry, but no. You're going to immediately regret leaving. "Okay, now you are angry with me," said Graciosa in her most coaxing voice, "though after all I am more to be pitied than you are." So you're trying to manipulate him right back. Perfect. This is a lovely relationship. When they got near the palace, the prince made the sledge and themselves invisible, so the princess got in unobserved and ran up to the great hall where the king was sitting all by himself. At first he was very much startled by Graciosa's sudden appearance, but she told him how the queen had left her out in the forest, and how she had caused a log of wood to be buried. The king, who did not know what to think, sent quickly and had it dug up, and sure enough, it was as the princess had said. Then he caressed Graciosa and made her sit down to supper with him, and they were as happy as possible. But someone had by this time told the wicked queen that Graciosa had come back, and was at supper with the king. And in she flew in a terrible fury. The poor old king quite trembled before her, and when he declared that Graciosa was not the princess at all, but a wicked impostor, and that if the king did not give her up at once, she would go back to her own castle and never see him again, he had not a word to say, and really seemed to believe that it was not Graciosa after all. So now the queen just says, "That's not even your daughter," and he's like, "Oh, is it not? Oh my gosh." Everybody's just a manipulative... Okay. So the queen, in great triumph, sent for her waiting women, who dragged the unhappy princess away and shut her up in a garret. Of course. They took away all her jewels and her pretty dress, and gave her a rough cotton frock, wooden shoes, and a little cloth cap. There was some straw in a corner, which was all she had for a bed, and they gave her a pretty little bit of black bread to eat. She gave her a very little bit of black bread to eat. Sorry, another word. Yeah. In this miserable plight, Graciosa did indeed regret the fairy palace, and she would have called Percinet to her aid, only she felt sure he was still vexed with her for leaving him, and thought that she could not expect him to come. Oh, goodness. Meanwhile, the queen had sent for an old fairy, as malicious as herself, and said to her, "You must find me some task for this fine princess, which she cannot possibly do, for I mean to punish her, and if she does not do what I order, she will not be able to say that I am unjust." Sounds like you could just punish her. I don't think... Just do it. You were given the permission to do whatever you see fit to her, so, just do it. But okay. If you want to be more manipulative and weird, of course. So the old fairy said that she should think it over and come again the next day. When she returned, she brought with her a skein of thread 3 times as big as herself. It was so fine that a breath of air would break it, and so tangled that it was impossible to see the beginning or the end of it. Ooh. The queen sent for Graciosa and said to her, "Do you see this skein? Set your clumsy fingers to work upon it, for I must have it disentangled by sunset, and if you break a single thread, it will be the worse for you." So saying, she left her, locking the door behind her with 3 keys. Well, she might have been able to, bind it back together. If you don't know, there's a couple of fun tricks to binding a yarn back together, but I don't know if this particular thread will cooperate with that. But anyway. Locking the door behind her with 3 keys, so there's 3 locks, goodness. The princess stood dismayed at the sight of the terrible skein. She did not but turn it... if she did but turn it over to see where to begin, she broke 1,000 threads, and not one could she disentangle. At last she threw it into the middle of the floor, crying, "Oh, Percinet, this fatal skein will be the death of me if you will not forgive me and help me once more." And immediately in came Percinet as easily as if he had all the keys in his own possession. "Here I am, princess, as much as ever as at your service," said he, "though really you are not very kind to me." I think her dad being misled that she was dead is a fair enough reason to go back home. Maybe? No? Okay, fine. Keep manipulating each other. Then she just stroked the skein with his wand. He just stroked the skein with his wand. He has a wand. And all the broken threads joined themselves together, and the whole skein wound itself smoothly off in the most surprising manner. And the prince, turning to Graciosa, asked if there was nothing else that she wished him to do for her, and if the time would never come when she would wish for him for his own sake. That's fair. Don't be vexed with me, Percinet, she said. I am unhappy enough without that. But why should you be unhappy, my princess? Cried he. Only come with me, and we shall be as happy as the day is long together. But suppose you get tired of me, said Graciosa. The prince was so grieved at this want of confidence that he left her without another word. You're mad that she's insecure? Oh, goodness. The wicked queen was in such a hurry to punish Graciosa that she thought the sun would never set, and indeed it was before the appointed time that she came with her 4 fairies, and as she fitted the 3 keys into the locks, she said, I'll venture to say that the idle minx has not done anything at all. She prefers to sit with her hands before her to keep them white. We're just saying she's lazy now? Okay, lovely. But as soon as she entered, Graciosa presented her with the ball of thread in perfect order, so that she had no fault to find, and could only pretend to discover that it was soiled, for which imaginary fault she gave Graciosa a blow on each cheek that made her white and pink skin turn green and yellow, and then she sent her back to be locked into the garret once more. Then the queen sent for the fairy and again scolded her furiously. Don't make such a mistake again. Find me something that will be quite impossible for her to do, she said. So the next day the fairy appeared with a huge barrel full of the feathers of all sorts of birds. There were nightingales, canaries, goldfinches, linnets, tomtits, parrots, owls, sparrows, doves, ostriches, bustards, peacocks, larks, partridges, and everything else that you can think of. These feathers, I didn't hear raven. These feathers were all mixed up in such confusion that the birds themselves could not have chosen out their own. Here, said the fairy, is a little task which it will take all your prisoner's skill and patience to accomplish. Tell her to pick out and lay in a separate heap the feathers of each bird. She would need to be a fairy to do it. The queen was or a biologist, maybe? Anyway, the queen was more delighted at the thought of the despair this task would cause the princess. She sent for her, and with the same thread as before, locked her up with the 3 keys, ordering that all the feathers should be sorted by sunset. Graciosa set to work at once, but before she had taken out a dozen feathers, she found that it was perfectly impossible to know one from another. Ah, well, she sighed, the queen wishes to kill me, and if I must die, I must. I cannot ask Percinet to help me again, for if he really loved me, he would not wait till I called him. He would come without that. I mean, yeah, if he had the sense to worry about you, he would maybe not let you just be punished in the tower, but you can't assume that they just know what's happening. But he is a fairy, so he should really know. Okay. I am here, my Graciosa, cried Percinet, springing out of the barrel where he had been hiding. Okay, you're in barrels. How can you still doubt that I love you with all my heart? Why are you leaving me in here then? Then he gave 3 strokes of his wand upon the barrel, and all the feathers flew out in a cloud and settled down in neat little separate heaps all around the room. Okay. What should I do without you, Percinet? Cried Graciosa gratefully, but still she could not quite make up her mind to go with him and leave her father's kingdom forever. So she begged him to give her more time to think of it, and he had to go away disappointed once more. When the wicked queen came at sunset, she was amazed and infuriated to find the task done. However, she complained that the heaps of feathers were badly arranged, and for that the princess was beaten and sent back to her garret. Then the queen sent for the fairy once more and scolded her until she was fairly terrified. Fairly. Okay, and promised to go home and think of another task for Graciosa, worse than either of the others. At the end of 3 days she came again, bringing with her a box. Tell your slaves, said he, to carry this wherever you please, but on no account to open it. She will not be able to help doing so, and then you will be quite satisfied with the result. So the queen came to Graciosa and said, Carry this box to my castle and place it upon the table in my own room, but I forbid you, on pain of death, to look at what it contains. Graciosa set out, wearing her little cap and wooden shoes and the old cotton frock. But even in this disguise she was so beautiful that all the passers-by wondered who she could be. Oh no, the ad's going to happen. She had not gone far before the heat of the sun and the weight of the box tired her so much that she sat down to rest in the shade of a little wood which lay on one side of a green meadow. She was carefully holding the box upon her lap when suddenly felt the greatest desire to open it. What could possibly happen if I did, she said to herself. I should not take anything out. I should only just see what was there. And without further hesitation, she lifted the cover. Like an idiot. Instantly came out swarms of little men and women no taller than her finger, and scattered themselves all over the meadow, singing and dancing and playing the merriest games, so that at first Graciosa was delighted and watched them with much amusement. But presently, when she was rested and wished to go on her way, she found that, do what she would, she could not get them back into their box. If she chased them in the meadow, they fled into the wood, and if she pursued them into the wood, they dodged round trees and behind sprigs of moss, and with peals of elfin laughter scampered back again into the meadow. So that was very unhelpful. Didn't have to open it. Okay, the ad's going to start at some point. Makes you wait until it decides to start, but it doesn't start yet. And I apologize for ad. But, wouldn't the little people be able to just say, yeah, we got out? Even if they put this away, they'll be able to say, yeah, we got out. And so I don't think Percinet can really rely, I don't think she can really rely on Percinet to save it, but she probably will. Oh, there's the ad. Okay. Focusing. Focusing has somewhat helped, but I still went off on tangents because this is a heck of a story. I got my feelings. I got my thoughts. First half read fully like a Reddit story. Second half, now that we have the fairiness, is its own thing. Okay, the ad is over. Yay. All right. So yeah, they're scrambling, and she's gonna ask Percinet for help, but is that really gonna fix it? Anyway. At last, weary and terrified, she sat down and cried. It is my own fault, she said sadly. It is. Percinet, if you can still care for such an imprudent princess, do come and help me once more. Immediately Percinet stood before her. Ah, princess, he said, but for the wicked queen, I fear you would never think of me at all. Indeed I should, said Graciosa. I am not so ungrateful as you think. Only wait a little, and I believe I shall love you quite dearly. Percinet was pleased at this, and with one stroke of his wand compelled all the wilful little people to come back to their places in the box, and then rendering the princess invisible, he took her with him in his chariot to the castle. When the princess presented herself at the door, and said that the queen had ordered her to place the box in her own room, the governor laughed heartily at the idea. No, no, my little shepherdess, said he, that is not the place for you. No wooden shoes have ever been over that floor yet. Then Graciosa begged him to give her a written message telling the queen that he had refused to admit her. This he did, and she went back to Percinet, who was waiting for her, and they set out together for the palace. You may imagine they did not go the shortest way, but the princess did not find it too long, and before they parted she had promised that if the queen was still cruel to her, and tried again to play her any spiteful trick, she would leave her and come to Percinet forever. This is just reading like excuses to like he's created a little bit of the problem with this. And then you only go to the man because your life is awful otherwise, and yet this is supposed to be someone that you love. It feels a terrible moral. You don't learn good things from this story at all. Okay, when the queen saw her returning, she fell upon the fairy, whom she had kept with her, and pulled her hair and scratched her face, and would really have killed her if a fairy could be killed. They can't? Anyway. And when the princess presented the letter and the box, she threw them both upon the fire without opening them. Oh my gosh. Lady, you just killed the little people? Okay, I have a problem with you here. You know that there is little people in there, and you just threw them upon the fire? Wow. It looked very much as if she would like to throw the princess after them. However, what she really did do was have a great hole as deep as a well dug in her garden, and the top of it covered with a flat stone. Then she went and walked near it, and said to Graciosa and all her ladies who were with her, I am told that a great treasure lies under that stone. Let us see if we can lift it. Oh, this is going to be a problem. So they all began to push and pull at it, and Graciosa, among the others, which was just what the queen wanted. For as soon as the stone was lifted high enough, she gave the princess a push, which sent her down to the bottom of the well. And then the stone was let fall again, and there she was a prisoner. Graciosa felt that now indeed she was hopelessly lost. Surely not even Percinet could find her in the heart of the earth. This is like being buried alive, she said with a shudder, which he had referenced, you won't properly regret it until you've been buried. Here we go. Oh, Percinet, she's talking again, if you only knew how I am suffering for my want of trust in you. But how could I be sure that you would not be like other men and tire of me from the moment you were sure I loved you? And as she spoke, she suddenly saw a little door open, and the sunshine blazed into the dismal well. Graciosa did not hesitate an instant, but passed through into a charming garden. Flowers and fruit grew on every side, fountains plashed, not splashed, plashed, and birds sang in the branches overhead. And when she reached a great avenue of trees, and looked up to see where it would lead her, she found herself close to the palace of crystal. Yes, there was no mistaking it, and the queen and Percinet were coming to meet her. Ah, princess, said the queen, don't keep this poor Percinet in suspense any longer. You little guess the anxiety he has suffered while you were in the power of that miserable queen. The princess kissed her gratefully and promised to do as she wished in everything. And holding out her hand to Percinet with a smile, she said, Do you remember telling me that I should not see your palace again until I had been buried? I wonder if you guessed then that when that happened, I should tell you that I love you with all my heart, and will marry you, whenever you like. Prince Percinet joyfully took the hand that was given him, and for fear the princess should change her mind, the wedding was held at once with the greatest splendor, and Graciosa and Percinet lived happily ever after. The end. Emote only chat may end. How do I do this? There we go. We did it at the same time. Oops. Okay. But now, yay! It's done. Congrats. You can talk again. And there is the end of that story, which was certainly a ride. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that story teaches you any of the morals you need to learn growing up. We speak. Yes. But all right. I have redeems. Let's move my stuffs around. Hard agree, yippee. Welcome back to chatting, everyone. Oh, goodness. My model was having a moment. She's recovering slowly. But now we'll go into our redeems. I'll get to my typing and humming. Thank you very much for those redeem requests. Typing. My mic keeps randomly falling on me. It's very weird. I have to adjust it next break. But okay, here we go. Typing. There you go, with lots of typing. Tippity tappy, clickety clackety, tip tap. Oh, sorry, adjusting this around so I know my voice was floating around, not properly in the mic. But okay. Humming. All right, let's do the hummings. There you go with the hummings. If that's all we have for redeems, I feel like I should have one more. And I think I might make one of my own choice because we haven't heard it in a while, and I always like having it. So I will choose my own next redeem. Ha 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 ha. Okay. We have plenty of singing frogs, but we don't always have singing bows. Okay, here we go. Okay, there was our singing bowl. Just hasn't got to have any time out in a while, so it felt nice to do that. Alright, moving along. We'll go to the next story in a fairy book, red fairy book. An interesting title. And this is quite a long one. Not as long as the last one. The Princess Mayblossom. Which, could have sworn, when I clicked on it a minute ago, said the 3 princesses of Whiteland. So either there's a... yeah. That link isn't quite happening the way it should, because that is a different story we've already read. The Princess Mayblossom is one that we've already read. It was one of the top of the list. Huh. The link isn't working. Their little list is not happening. It's not cooperating. That's funny. Okay. Well, looks like we don't have the 3 princesses of Whiteland. I'll have to look back on that one. The 3... It might have been removed for a reason, but you'd think that they would have removed it from the list if so. Okay, instead, a very short one called The Voice of Death. Fun! And then another one. Yeah, that's also very short. We're getting into the shorts now. But okay, The Voice of Death. Lovely. Here we go. This feels like a Poe title instead of a normal fairy tale title. Ooh, come back. Okay. The Voice of Death. I'm going to scare my frogs away. Once upon a time, there lived a man whose one wish and prayer was to get rich. Adjusting. There we go. His one goal was to get rich. Day and night he thought of nothing else, and at last his prayers were granted, and he became very wealthy. Now being so rich, and having so much to lose, he felt that it would be a terrible thing to die and leave all his possessions behind. So he made up his mind to set out in search of a land where there was no death. Oh boy. He got ready for his journey, took leave of his wife, and started. Whenever he came to a new country, the first question that he asked was whether people died in that land. And when he heard that they did, he set out again on his quest. You're going to be looking for a long time, my dude. At last he reached a country where he was told that the people did not even know the meaning of the word death. Okay, what? Our traveler was delighted when he heard this and said, "But surely there are great numbers of people in your land, if no one ever dies." "No," they replied, "there are not great numbers, for you see from time to time a voice is heard calling first one and then another, and whoever hears that voice gets up and goes away, and never comes back." "And do they see the person who calls them?" he asked. "Or do they only hear his voice?" "They both see and hear him," was the answer. Well, the man was amazed when he heard that the people were stupid enough to follow the voice. Lovely. Yeah, just show up one place, pick on them, and laugh at them as stupid, despite you not knowing anything about it, but lovely. Though they knew that if they went when it called them, they would never return. So you're stupid if you go when you know you won't return. And when he went back to his home and got all his possessions together, and taking his wife and family, he set out, resolved to go Sorry, yawn. He set out resolved to go and live in that country where the people did not die, but where instead they heard a voice calling them, which they followed into a land from which they never returned. For he had made up his own mind that when he or any of his family heard that voice, they would pay no heed to it, however loudly it called. After he had settled down in his new home, and had got everything in order about him, he warned his wife and family that, unless they wanted to die, they must on no account listen to a voice which they might some day hear calling them. For some years everything went well with them, and they lived happily in their new home. But one day, while they were all sitting together round the table, his wife suddenly started up, exclaiming in a loud voice, "I am coming! I am coming!" And she began to look round the room for her fur coat, but her husband jumped up, and taking firm hold of her by the hand, held her fast, and reproached her, saying, "Don't you remember what I told you? Stay where you are unless you wish to die." "But don't you hear that voice calling me?" she answered. "I am merely going to see why I am wanted. I shall come back directly." So she fought and struggled to get away from her husband, and to go where the voice summoned. But he would not let her go, and had all the doors of the house shut and bolted. Sorry. But, oh my gosh. Okay, dude. When she saw that he had done this, she said, "Very well, dear husband. I shall do what you wish and remain where I am, now that I have no choice, but okay." So her husband believed that it was all right, and that she had thought better of it, and had got over her mad impulse to obey the voice. Ooh, turtle taking a lurk. Nice. But a few minutes later she made a sudden dash for one of the doors, opened it, and darted out, followed by her husband. He caught her by the fur coat and begged and implored her not to go, for if she did she would certainly never return. She said nothing, but let her arms fall backwards, and suddenly bending herself forward, she slipped out of the coat, leaving it in her husband's hands. He, poor man, seemed turned to stone as he gazed after her hurrying away from him, and calling at the top of her voice as she ran, "I'm coming, I'm coming." When she was quite out of sight, her husband recovered his wits and went back into his house, murmuring, "If she is so foolish as to wish to die, I can't help it. I warned and implored her to pay no heed to that voice, however loudly it may call." Well, days and weeks and months and years passed, and nothing happened to disturb the peace of the household. But one day the man was at the barber's as usual, being shaved. The shop was full of people, and his chin had just been covered with a lather of soap, when suddenly starting up from the chair, he called out in a loud voice, "I won't come. Do you hear? I won't come." The barber and the other people in the shop listened to him with amazement, but again looking towards the door, he exclaimed, "I tell you, once and for all, I do not mean to come, so go away." And a few minutes later he called out again, "Go away, I tell you, or it will be the worse for you. You may call as much as you like, but you will never get me to come." And he got so angry that you might have thought that someone was actually standing at the door tormenting him. At last he jumped up and caught the razor of the barber's hand, exclaiming, "Give me that razor, and I'll teach him to let people alone for the future." And he rushed out of the house as if he were running after someone, whom no one else saw. The barber, determined not to lose his razor, pursued the man, and they both continued running at full speed till they had got well out of the town, when all of a sudden the man fell head foremost down a precipice and was never seen again. So he, too, like the others, had been forced against his will to follow the voice that called him. The barber, who went home whistling and congratulating himself on the escape he had made, described what had happened, and it was noised abroad in the country that the people who had gone away and had never returned had all fallen into that pit. So he knew that that was what happened? Anyway, for till then they had never known what had happened to those who had heard the voice and obeyed its call. So did the barber run after? What? Oh, the barber, who didn't want to lose his razor, pursued the man, And the man ran after the voice person, and so he saw the man fall down. I got that mixed up. Okay, so then the barber gets away. But when crowds of people went out from the town to examine the ill-fated pit that had swallowed up such numbers, and yet never seemed to be full, they could discover nothing. All that they could see was a vast plain that looked as if it had been there since the beginning of the world. And from that time the people of the country began to die like ordinary mortals all the world over. So as soon as they found out about it, they had to stop. But it wasn't the man that found out about it. The man died. It was the man's barber that got to find out about this. This reeks of one of the classic fairy tales with weird, pointless twistiness. But lovely. Okay. That's the end of The Voice of Death. No closure on who exactly was the voice besides their version of death. But okay. I see we have mug tappy tap, so I gotta grab my mug. I don't have my mug over here. I will grab my mug, and if you have other redeems, this is the time to request those. I will be right back. I am indeed the back. But here we go with mug tappy taps. Boop. There we go. And there is our mug tappy taps. We don't have any other redeems, so I'll leave that there. We'll move on to the next short, and then more redeems after that. But here we go. We have The Voice of Death. Oh, hydrate. I kind of just did, but I will do that. Thank you, Battle Chain. I will hydrate. Thank you. Come on, thing. So we have The Voice of Death, and then the Six Sillies is the next one, which is a fun name. The Six Sillies. Here we go. Once upon a time. Oh no, wait, I didn't change that. I need to change it here. I'm glad I caught it. I could have ignored it accidentally. Do. The Six Sillies. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who reached the age of 37 without ever having had a lover, for she was so foolish that no one wanted to marry her. All right. Almost 40-year-old virgin. I'm here for it. One day, however, a young man arrived to pay his addresses to her, and her mother, beaming with joy, sent her daughter down to the cellar to draw a jug of beer. As the girl never came back, the mother went down to see what had become of her, and found her sitting on the stairs, her head in her hands, while by her side the beer was running all over the floor, as she had forgotten to close the tap. "What are you doing there?" asked the mother. "I was thinking what I shall call my first child after I'm married to that young man. All the names in the calendar are taken already." Okay. All right then. The mother sat down on the staircase beside her daughter and said, I will think about it with you, my dear." "Have they turned the beer down yet? Or closed that tap yet?" The father, who had stayed upstairs with the young man, was surprised that neither his wife nor his daughter came back, and in his turn went down to look for them. He found them both sitting on the stairs, while beside them the beer was running all over the ground from the tap, which was wide open. Okay, we should probably change that. "What are you doing there? The beer is running all over the cellar." "We were thinking what we should call the children that our daughter will have when she marries that young man. All the names in the calendar are taken already." "Well," said the father, "I will think about it with you." As neither mother nor daughter nor father came upstairs again, the lover grew impatient and went down into the cellar to see what they could all be doing, very presumptuously planning the kids' names. He found them all three sitting on the stairs, while beside them the beer was running all over the ground from the tap, which was wide open. "What in the world are you all doing, that you don't come upstairs, and that you let the beer run all over the cellar?" "Yes, I know, my boy," said the father, "but if you marry our daughter, what shall you call your children? All the names in the calendar are taken." When the young man heard this answer, he replied, "Well, goodbye, I am going away. When I shall have found three people sillier than you, I will come back and marry your daughter." "Well, all right then." So he continued his journey, and after walking a long way, he reached an orchard. Then he saw some people knocking down walnuts and trying to throw them into a cart with a fork. "What are you doing there?" he asked. "We want to load the cart with our walnuts, but we can't manage to do it." The lover advised them to get a basket and to put the walnuts in it so as to turn them into the cart. "Well," he said to himself, "I have already found someone more foolish than those three." So he went his way, and by came to a wood. There he saw a man who wanted to give his pig some acorns to eat, and was trying with all his might to make him climb up the oak tree. "It's a pig." "What are you doing, my good man?" asked he. "I want to make my pig eat some acorns, and I can't get him to go up the tree. If you were to climb up and shake down the acorns, the pig would pick them up." "Oh, I never thought of that." "Here is the second idiot," said the lover to himself. Some way farther along the road, he came upon a man who had never worn any trousers, and who was trying to put on a pair. So he had fastened them to a tree, and was jumping with all his might up in the air so that he should hit the two legs of the trousers as he came down. "It would be much better if you held them in your hands," said the young man, "and put your legs one after the other in each hole." "Dear me, to be sure. You are sharper than I am, for that never occurred to me." And having found three people more foolish than his bride, or her father, or her mother, the lover went back to marry the young lady. And in course of time they had a great many children. But did they ever close the beer tap? Did they run out of beer? And what did they name the children? Those answers not listed here. Nope. No answers to those questions, ever. That is the end. The Six Sillies. Okay then. What a time. All right, fine. Goofy as hell. But there you go. That was that story. If you have redeems, this is a good time. The next story. Oh, cool. The next story is a little bit longer, so let's do a few redeems here. I'll read it down and give you guys a minute to request them, because that trigger word will be very quick to do. This will be an interesting story. Okay. Ooh, nice. Thank you, Battle Chain. All right. Swap that over. So I will do the mic arm sharpening, and then I guess the sniffers, and then the scissor snips. Ooh, thank you. Battle Chain's like, okay, yes, this is the time for redeems. All right. But first, I must say, tequila. Thanks, Gage. Having your time. Okay. Okay. That song randomly popped into my head, and I figured the lyrics are easy to remember and don't waste a lot of time. You had to say it was a song. Now I'm technically breaking copyright law. No. Fair, yeah. They are easy to remember. Yawned. So rude. Okay, there we go. Mic arm sharpening. We'll jump into that. There we go. Sorry. Okay, there we go with the mic arm sharpening. Yeah, it is weird that it's still copyrighted, but probably for that reason, yes. Most copyrights nowadays that used to be shorter, and the real rich folks, they're fighting for even longer copyright holds so that nothing goes into public domain. But it's usually about 100 years at this point. Okay, sniffs and thanks long. And yeah, okay, sniff. Alright. And now, scissor snips. Do-do. Hello! You have Ion Bear as a name now, but okay, Interlictic. Hi! I'm sorry your day's been a sad one. Hopefully it does help. May I ask what's up? I hope it's not too heavy stuffs, but we're here for you. Oh wait, what am I doing? Yes, we're doing Singing Frog right next. I hope this helps. I hope you walk away from the ASMR or wake up after the ASMR and feel better. Singing frog. We have a frog. Okay. The frog will go away. I'm sorry you gotta deal with so much stuff, and I'm sorry you had to feel like that right now. Yeah, I was just about to send some. Come on. Actually, what was the one that showed up first? That's what we need. I send hugs. I send little cat hug. I'm sorry you feel unloved. Ooh, Mike. I'm sorry you feel unloved and ignored today. We're here for you. We're not going to ignore you over here. You are definitely not unloved over here. So, sending the little hugs. And then I'll send my own little... No! Do the right thing. There you go. And then I'll send my little hearts. Yeah. Welcome in. I hope you can feel better. And yeah, unfortunately, sitting with those feelings is never fun. You sometimes just gotta reset your brain with sleep. My usual move is really dumb videos on the internet. Like, really stupid, wacky goofiness. Positive chaos. Nonsense. And I feel really honored that you're here to try and reset your brain with me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to do my best to hopefully reset that. We love you over here, so lots of loves. And thank you for considering the rest of everybody's vibes, not wanting to burden them with too much venting. But, oh, here goes the tears. We can cry. We can cry together. Where is my cry? Where is my cry? Where is my cry? What happened to my cry? I don't know where my cry button is. I don't have the other keyboard checked. I need to plug in the other keyboard to make my cry function happen. What is this? It says it's in control. Is that it? No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I don't know how to make that happen. Okay. I have to sort out the other keyboard. But welcome into hugs and stuff. If you want to do a little bit of vent on the Discord chats, it's a good spot for venting as long as you respect the rules of like going too far with it, you know. If you need help physically, if you're really struggling with something, the internet's friends are not exactly helpful for that. You need some professionals that can make sure that you are safe is more important. But if you just want to vent a little bit, you can let that out there, and maybe somebody will chat with you about that. Probably I will end up reading and sending the love and having to run away and do other things like uploading VODs, but we'll be there. Okay. Singing Frog is up. And I have the next story, which had an interesting name. Okay, fair enough. You know yourself better than we will know you, so all right. But we're here for you. Okay, the next story, though, like I said, Kari Woodengown. And I think Woodengown is such a name. And if there's not a bit where this main character wears a dress made of wood, I'm gonna be disappointed. That's what I'm hoping for here. That's what I'm expecting with a name like that. But okay, here we go. Kari Woodengown. There was once upon a time a king who had become a widower. His queen had left one daughter behind her, and he was so wise and so pretty, and she was so wise and so pretty, that it was impossible for anyone to be wiser or prettier. For a long time the king went sorrowing for his wife, for he had loved her exceedingly, but at last he grew tired of living alone, and married a queen who was a widow, and she also had a daughter, who was just as ill-favored and wicked as the other was good and beautiful. Oh, classic. What is it not like that? Okay. Just once I want to hear, yeah, and that was a stepmother, and she brought in a stepsister, but everybody was beautiful and nice and lovely. Or they were really pretty, but they were actually an asshole. That doesn't really happen with these as much. It's very much a modern thing. Anyway. In comparison to these old stories, at least. Anyway. Okay. The stepmother and her daughter were envious of the king's daughter because she was so pretty. But so long as the king was at home, they dared do her no harm, because his love for her was so great. Then there came a time when he made war on another king and went away to fight. And then the new queen thought she could do what she liked. So she both hungered as in like starved her? Anyway, and beat the king's daughter and chased her about into every corner. At last she thought that everything was too good for her, and set her to work to look after the cattle. So she went about with the cattle, and herded them into the woods and in the fields. Of food she got little or none, and grew pale and thin, and was nearly always weeping and sad. Among the herd there was a great blue bull, which always kept itself very smart and sleek, and often came to the king's daughter and let her stroke him. So one day, when she was again sitting crying and sorrowing, the bull came up to her and asked why she was always so full of care. She made no answer, but continued to weep. Well, said the bull, I know what it is, though you will not tell me. You are weeping because the queen is unkind to you, and because she wants to starve you to death. But you need be under no concern about food, for in my left ear there lies a cloth, and you will but take it and spread it out. And if you will but take it and spread it out, you can have as many dishes as you like. Out of your ear? Okay. Ew. So she did this, and took the cloth and spread it out upon the grass, and then it was covered with the daintiest dishes that any one could desire. And there was wine and mead and cake. And now she became brisk and well again, and grew so rosy and plump and fair that the queen and her scraggy daughter turned blue and white with vexation at it. The queen could not imagine how her stepdaughter could look so well on such bad food, so she ordered one of her handmaidens to follow her into the wood and watch her, and see how it was, for she thought that some of the servants must be giving her food. This sounds a lot like one of the stories we had where the girl had to take a goat out into the field to graze, and the goat had like a little picnic or something for her every time. And the mean mom had 2 daughters, and she sent one of them to watch every time, I think. Anyway, all right. Similar moves here. So the maid followed her into the wood and watched, and saw how the stepdaughter took the cloth out of the blue bull's ear and spread it out, and how the cloth was then covered with the most delicate dishes, which the stepdaughter ate and regaled herself with. So the waiting maid went home and told the queen. And now the king came home, and he had conquered the other king with whom he had been at war. So there was great gladness in the palace, but no one was more glad than the king's daughter. The queen, however, pretended to be ill, and gave the doctor much money to say that she would never be well again unless she had some of the flesh of the blue bull to eat. Oh no. Both the king's daughter and the people in the palace asked the doctor if there were no other means of saving her, and begged for the bull's life, for they were all fond of him. They all declared that there was no such bull in the whole country, but it was all in vain. He was to be killed, and should be killed, and nothing else would serve. When the king's daughter heard it, she was full of sorrow, and went down to the byre to stumbling as I go, and went down to the byre to the bull. He too was standing there, hanging his head and looking so downcast that she fell a weeping over him. "What are you weeping for?" said the bull. So she told him that the king had come home again, and that the queen had pretended to be ill, and that she had made the doctor say that she could never be well again unless some of the flesh of the blue bull was given her to eat, and that now he was to be killed. Okay, but how did the daughter know that it was a ruse? How did she know that it was bullshit? For all you know, little girl, that really is how the best way to save her. Like, come on. But okay. "When once they have taken my life, they will soon kill you also," said the bull. "If you are of the same mind with me, we will take our departure this very night." Good, okay. The king's daughter thought it was bad to go and leave her father, but that it was worse still to be in the same house with the queen, so she promised the bull that she would come. At night, when all the others had gone to bed, the king's daughter stole softly down to the byre to the bull, and he took her on his back and got out of the courtyard as quickly as he could. So at cock-crow next morning, when the people came to kill the bull, he was gone, and when the king got up and asked for his daughter, she was gone too. He sent forth messengers to all parts of the kingdom to search for them, and published his loss in all the parish churches, but there was no one who had seen anything of them. In the meantime, the bull traveled through many lands with the king's daughter on his back, and one day they came to a great copper wood, where the trees and the branches and the leaves and the flowers and everything else was of copper. But before they entered the wood, the bull said to the king's daughter, "When we enter into this wood, you must take the greatest care not to touch a leaf of it, or all will be over both with me and with you, for a troll with 3 heads, who is the owner of the wood, lives here. I have a feeling not only will they mess this up, there will also be possibly a silver and gold forests as well, but anyway." So she said she would be on her guard and not touch anything, and she was very careful, and bent herself out of the way of the branches, and put them aside with her hands. But it was so thickly wooded that it was all but impossible to get forward, and do what she might, she somehow or other tore off a leaf which got into her hand. "Oh, oh, what have you done now?" said the bull. "It will now cost us a battle for life or death, but do be careful to keep the leaf." Very soon afterwards they came to the end of the wood, and the troll with the 3 heads came rushing up to them. "Who is that who is touching my wood?" said the troll. "The wood is just as much mine as yours," said the bull. "We shall have a tussle for that," shrieked the troll. "That may be," said the bull. So they rushed on each other and fought, and as for the bull, he butted and kicked with all the strength of his body. But the troll fought quite well as he did, and the whole day went by before the bull put an end to him, and then he himself was so full of wounds and so worn out that he was scarcely able to move. So they had to wait a day, and the bull told the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment which hung at the troll's belt, and rub him with it. Then he was himself again, and the next day they set off once more, and now they journeyed on for many, many days, and then after a long, long time they came to a silver wood. The trees and the boughs and the leaves and the flowers and everything else was of silver. I'm going to have to run an ad. I'm so sorry. It'll be 30 seconds. I promise. I'm sorry. Okay. The ad runs. This is the problem with running the shorter ads. They come back at you quicker. Ugh. 13, 12, 10. Oh, 11, 10. Why did I skip 11? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so we messed up with the copper. We're going to mess up with the silver. And then there's going to be an end to the gold one. Okay, here we are again. All right, so we're going up to the silver wood. Before the bull went into the wood, he said to the king's daughter, "When we enter into this wood, you must, for heaven's sake, be very careful not to touch anything at all, and not to pluck off even so much as one leaf, or else all will be over with both you and me. A troll with 6 heads lives here, who is the owner of the wood, and I do not think I should be able to overcome him." "Oh boy. Yes," said the king's daughter, "I will take good care not to touch what you do not wish me to touch." But when they got into the wood, it was so crowded and the trees so close together that they could scarcely get forward. She was as careful as she could be, and bent aside to get out of the way of the branches, and thrust them away before her with her hands. But every instant a branch struck against her eyes, and in spite of all her care, she happened to pull off one leaf. "Oh, oh, what have you done now?" said the bull. "It will now cost us a battle for life or death, for this troll has 6 heads and is twice as strong as the other, but do be careful to keep the leaf." Ever feel so sad that you want to throw up? Glad that feeling went away. I'm not here often, but when I am, I'm happy. Thank you, Obsidian. I'm very glad that that's faded away. Big hugs again to you. I'm hoping that it properly fades away for goods. Where's the hugs? There's the hugs. Oh, and this little guy's cute too. Loves. Boop, boop. Okay, there you go. I'm very glad you're here, and I'm glad that that's going away. Okay, so they're going to fight again. All this again. Oh, I'm so sad that the 7 TV emotes don't pop up on the screen like as emotes. They're just text. So rude. Anyway, okay. Yes, keep the leaf, but I'm going to have to fight this 6-headed troll. Okay. Just as he said this, came the troll. "Who is that is touching my wood?" he said. "It is just as much mine as yours." "We shall have a tussle for that," screamed the troll. "That may be," said the bull, and rushed at the troll and gored out its eyes and drove his horns right through him so that his entrails gushed out. But the troll fought just as well as he did, and it was 3 whole days before the bull got the life out of him. Ugh. But the bull was then so weak and worn out that it was only with pain and effort that he could move, and so covered with wounds that the blood streamed from him. Oh no. So he told the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment that was hanging at the troll's belt and anoint him with it. She did this, and then he came to himself again, but they had to stay there and rest for a week before the bull was able to go any farther. Oh boy, what's going to happen when our next troll has a bunch more heads and it's a gold forest and it takes forever for him to heal from that battle? Because you know that's going to happen. It's going to have to happen. That's how it works. Hello, Scramalope. Fun name. Haven't gotten a real hug in quite a few years. Someone actually gave me roses closer than my last one. Fun fact. Most men don't receive their first flowers to their funeral. Not a fun fact, but it is a fact. Yep. Misogyny cuts both ways. The sexism affects them. 'Cause it's so lady, it's so girly to get flowers. Flowers are nice for anybody. Throw the genders away with it. Flowers are nice. Anyway. I'm sorry you haven't gotten hugs. I haven't gotten many hugs neither. Part living in a forest, part the world had another pandemic. But yeah, we all need more hugs. I can buy myself flowers. Really though, that's a shame. Yeah. I don't often give flowers, but I will give my cranes to anybody. Because like I said, I like to make all my cranes. I've said that before. I made lots of them whenever I'm waiting, and then I'll just hand them off to people. Whatever your gender, if you're close to me, like physically there while I'm making my crane, hey, you get a crane. There you go. So, I don't do flowers, unfortunately. I can't produce flowers out of my hands. But I do the cranes at least. Cute little flower gifts. They're all cute. I think I have a frog flower. But look at that little nude flower. That's his name. Nude L? Nude flower. The little frog. Such cute little eyes. Such a cute little face. We're going to have to copy that. You hear me, Fetster? We're copying it. I never got flowers before. I have received a plant, though. Ooh, yes. I currently have some hyacinths that their blooms have died away, but the bulbs are still doing very well. And they were a gift, too, like that. But they were potted. They're not like just... They're a plant. So they are both the plant and the flower. It's fun. Anyway, I got distracted. We should send each other flowers. Honestly, it would make my year if I could get a crane from you. Oh. Mail! Send the cranes. I'm sorry. I want to do that, but also that presents difficulties. But I would like to. I would like to be able to send them all away to people. At the minimum, I did like the idea of writing down all of my followers' names on each crane in my 1,000 cranes. So I think that will happen. And we'll either write Ion Bear 2 or the Inner Lictung. But yeah. Okay. Where was I? Oh yes. We're preparing for the next woods. Certainly. Just watch. Oh yeah. Okay. I see ahead. All right. At last they set forth on their way again, but the bull was still weak, and at first could not go quickly. The king's daughter wished to spare him, and said that she was so young and light of foot that she would willingly walk, but he would not give her leave to do that, and she was forced to seat herself on his back again. What I'm hearing is the blue bull has a pride issue, but anyway. So they traveled for a long time. I only said here because you wouldn't believe me if I said like, oh, we gotta give some loves. You're being so sweet right back. It's such a day when we need all the loves. Oh, okay. Right. Yes. So they traveled. Yes, they traveled for a long time through many lands. And the king's daughter did not know at all where he was taking her, but after a long time, they came to a gold wood, because of course. It was so golden that the gold dripped off it. That sounds less like it's gold and more like it's fake, but okay. The gold dripped off it, and the trees and the branches and the flowers and the leaves were all of pure gold. Here all happened just as it had happened in the copper wood and silver wood. The bull told the king's daughter that on no account was she to touch it, for there was a troll with 9 heads who was the owner, and that he was much larger and stronger than both the others put together, and that he did not believe that he could overcome him. So she said that she would take great care not to touch anything, and he should see that she did. But when they got into the wood, it was still thicker than the silver wood, and the farther they got into it, the worse it grew. The wood became thicker and thicker and closer, and at last she thought there was no way whatsoever by which they could get forward. She was so terrified lest she should break anything off, that she sat and twisted and turned herself on this side and on that, to get out of the way of the branches, and push them away from her with her hands. But every moment they struck against her eyes, so that she could not see what she was clutching at, and before she knew what she was doing, she had a golden apple in her hands. Oh, wow, okay. Not a leaf. She was now in such terror that she began to cry, and wanted to throw it away, but the bull said that she was to keep it, and take the greatest care of it, and comforted her as well as he could, but he believed that it would be a hard struggle, and he doubted whether it would go well with him. So he's thinking he's not going to make it out. Hello, Darkstorm. I think this bowl is not going to go well. We've collected the leaves. We've collected the gold apple. Okay, here we go. I hope everyone had a great day. Fortunately, Ion Bear, aka Inner Lick Tongue, he not had a great day. But we give all the loves and welcome in. And I like your little. Is that a rat? It looks kind of like a bat, but that's a little mouse, isn't it? A crane has a certain meaning to me, so one coming from you is doubly good. Yeah, I have a few very close meanings to mine. Put it in my glass case next to my Italy Nutella, Sakura blossom petal from Japan, and cherry blossom tree crocheted by my sis. Aw, dinosaur tooth from Argentina, etc. Ooh, dinosaur tooth. I like my collection. That sounds like a nice collection. It's fun. Ooh, hydrate and posture check. I can do these. I can do this. Okay. Now is the water, and now is the postures. Okay. All right. Oh, yes, this is what I was going to say. When she keeps going into these woods and she's being forced to ride the bull on his back, why not, like, bury her face into the back? You know, like, just hug the bull. Just completely give him a bear hug from behind / on top of him. You know, like, cover your face. Put your arms on him. And then you would probably, not be doing anything. I don't know. You could put the crane on the blossom tree. Burb. Oh, yeah. When you see me spinning, you best get sipping. Was I spinning? Did the model do a weirdness? Just finished my pre-apprenticeship today. Well, technically yesterday was fun. Heckin' yeah! Great job, Dad. Welcome in. Good jobs. Party, little dancing rat. Heck yeah. But okay. This mess, we're gonna have to let the bull fight the 9-headed troll, and I don't think it will go very well, but here we go. Just then, the troll with 9 heads came, and he was so frightful that the king's daughter scarcely dared to look at him. Now, that was something Radbear said when he used to hydrate redeem, and he used a spinning bear boat. Oh, that's cute! Aw, Radbear. Need to have more Radbear in our lives. Gonna do carpentry apprenticeship next year full time. Ooh, heckin' yes! Get that building done, Darkstorm. If I could insert sounds of hammering and drills and such, I would do that, because my brain was like, and all that. I don't know why. Anyway, okay. Ooh, a buff panda. Why? I actually have a Japanese tree collection too. I have a piece of cherry blossom, piece of sakura, piece of Japanese maple. Ooh, fun. Carpentry. Ignore the ban on the hammer. Yes, no ban. No ban for the hammer. Good little giggles. Yes. Okay. It's a nice little collection for the trees. Does that mean that they're like alive, or is it like a little model, or is it like a little piece of wood? Like I have a little stick from it, and the Japanese maple grew in my yard. My dad has no clue why it's there, actually. That's fun. Invasive species for the wind. As long as it doesn't actually overtake anything, it's just there for a minute. Vacuum sealed and temperature controlled glass case. Oh ho! If only demolitionist. Pandy boom. And the little kitty. This is fine. This is fine. That's what I should do. I should do a this is fine that's just flat. Just a photo and not animated. Scribbling for no reason. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. It has anti-humidity too. Not full climate control though. Ooh. But that is cool. That is very cool. Okay. So the girl is scared. They're about to fight. Here we go. Blue Bull versus 9-headed troll. Who is this who is breaking my wood? Ooh, for the first one, they say breaking as opposed to touching. He screamed. It is much mine as yours, said the bull. We shall have a tussle for that, screamed the troll. That may be, said the bull. So they rushed at each other and fought, and it was such a dreadful sight that the king's daughter very nearly swooned. And she's already seen the bull gore people a lot, or trolls a lot. She might not consider them people. Anyway, the bull gored the troll's eyes out and ran his horns right through him. But the troll fought as well as he did, and when the bull had gored one head to death over the other heads, breathed life into it again. Ooh. So it was a whole week before the bull was able to kill him. Hey, but he did it. But then he himself was so worn out and weak that he could not move at all. His body was all one wound, and he could not even so much as tell the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment out of the troll's belt and rub him with it. She did this without being told. Good, she has pattern recognition. She knows what to do now. So he came to himself again. Good. But he had to lie there for 3 weeks and rest before he was in a state to move. Wow. Congrats again, though, Darkstorm. Yes, congrats. Basically, everything important I've collected goes in there. That's why I put the crane in there. It's a good place to put it. Ugh, I've lost things important because I don't have a good place to put them. Darkstorm, thank you. Very exciting. Look at all of them. Look at this. Look at it. He's adorable. I like him in the blankie, especially because he looks like he's cosplaying as a frog. Look at him. He looks like he's pretending to be a frog, the little panda. Okay. So, Bull is not doing good. Needs to take big rest. Okay. Then they journeyed onward by degrees, for the bull said that they had still a little farther to go, and in this way they crossed many high hills and thick woods. This lasted for a while, and then they came upon the fells. Do you see anything? Asked the bull. No, I see nothing but the sky above and the wild fell side, said the king's daughter. Then they climbed up higher, and the fell grew more level, so that they could see farther around them. Do you see anything now? Said the bull. Yes, I see a small castle, far, far away. Oh, now he really is being a frog. Look at that. Look at that. He's got a juice box, too. Sippy sips. Okay, sorry. Yes, I see a small castle. It is not so very little after all, said the bull. After a long, long time they came to a high hill where there was a precipitous wall of rock. Do you see nothing now? Said the bull. Yes, now I see the castle quite near, and now it is much, much larger. Well, yes, that's how perspective works. But anyway, said the king's daughter. Thither shall you go, said the bull. Immediately below the castle there is a pigsty, where you shall dwell. When you get there, you will find a wooden gown. Yes, a wooden gown. I knew it. Which you are to put on, and then go to the castle and say you are called Kari Woodengown, and that you are seeking a place. But now you must take out your little knife and cut off my head with it. Oh no! And then you must flay me and roll up my hide and put it there under the rock. Beneath the hide you must lay the copper leaf, the silver leaf, and the golden apple. Close beside the rock is a stick. Close beside the rock is a stick is standing. There you go. Sorry, brain. And when you want me for anything, you have only to knock at the wall of the rock with that. It does sound painful. You're very right, Scramalope. And also convoluted for no good reason. At first she would not do it, but when the bull said that this was the only reward that he would have for what he had done for her, she could do no otherwise. So though she thought it very cruel, she slaved on and cut the great animal with a knife till she had cut off his head and hide. And when she folded up the hide and laid it beneath the mountain wall, and put the copper leaf and the silver leaf and the golden apple inside it. When she had done that, she went away to the pigsty, but all the way as she went, she wept, and was very sorrowful. Then she put on the wooden gown and walked to the king's palace. Probably messy too? Yeah, definitely. When she got there, she went into the kitchen and begged for a place, saying that her name was Kari Woodengown. The cook told her that she might have a place and leave to stay there at once and wash up, for the girl who had done that before had just gone away. And as soon as you get tired of being here, you will take yourself off too, said he. No, said she, that I shall certainly not. You probably will. And then she washed up and did it very tidily. On Sunday some strangers were coming to the king's palace, so Kari begged to have leave to carry up the water for the prince's bath. But the others laughed at her and said, What do you want there? Do you think the prince will ever look at such a fright as you? She would not give it up, however, but went on begging until at last she got leave. When she was going upstairs, her wooden gown made such a clatter that the prince came out and said, What sort of creature may you be? I was to take this water to you, said Kari. Do you suppose that I will have any water that you bring? Said the prince, and emptied it over her. This guy sounds like a dick, and I bet she's still going to try and win him over anyway. She had to bear that, but then she asked permission to go to church. She got that, for the church was very near. But first she went to the rock and knocked at it with the stick, which was standing there, as the bull had told her to do. Instantly a man came forth and asked what she wanted. The king's daughter said that she had got leave to go to church and listen to the priest, but that she had no clothes to go in. He brought her a gown that was as bright as the copper wood, and she got a horse and saddle too from him. Then when she reached the church, she was so pretty and so splendidly dressed that everyone wondered who she could be, and hardly anyone listened to what the priest was saying. Well, that's a problem, for they were all looking far too much at her, and the prince himself liked her so well that he could not take his eyes off her for an instant. And she was walking out of the church. As she was walking out of the church, the prince followed her and shut the church door after her, and thus he kept one of her gloves in his hand. Then she went away and mounted her horse again, and the prince again followed her and asked her whence she came. Oh, I am from Bathland, said Kari. And when the prince took out the glove and wanted to give it back to her, she said, Darkness behind me, but light on my way, that the prince may not see where I'm going today. Ooh. The prince had never seen the equal of that glove, and he went far and wide asking after the country which the proud lady who rode away without her glove had said that she came from, but there was no one who could tell him where it lay. Next Sunday, someone had to take up a towel to the prince. Ah, may that I have leave to go up with that, said Kari. What would be the use of that, said the others who were in the kitchen. You saw what happened last time. Kari would not give in, but went on begging for leave till she got it, and then she ran up the stairs so that her wooden gown clattered again. Out came the prince, and when he saw that it was Kari, he snatched the towel from her and flung it right in her eyes. "Be off at once, you ugly troll," said he. "Do you think that I will have a towel that has been touched by your dirty fingers?" What a dick. After that the prince went to church, and Kari asked leave to go. They all asked how she could want to go to church when she had nothing to wear but that wooden gown, which was so black and hideous. But Kari said she thought the priest was such a good man at preaching that she got so much benefit from what he said, and at last she got leave. She went to the rock and knocked, whereupon out came the man and gave her a gown which was much more magnificent than the first. It was embroidered with silver all over it, and it shone like the silver wood. And he gave her also a most beautiful horse with housings embroidered with silver, and a bridle of silver too. What happened to the copper stuff? What did you do with those? Anyway. Okay. When the king's daughter got to church, all the people were standing outside upon the hillside, and all of them wondered who on earth she could be. And the prince was on the alert in a moment, and came and wanted to hold her horse while she alighted. But she jumped off and said there was no need for that, for the horse was so well broken in that it stood still while she bade it, and came when she called it. So they all went into the church together, but there was scarcely anyone who listened to what the priest was saying, for they were all looking far too much at her, and the prince fell much more deeply in love with her than he had been before. Why do so many of the desirable princes kings suck? Because no one thought about feminism back then, and men could do whatever they wanted, pretty much, I think. I think. But that's not entirely. These stories, they valued beauty over anything else, is the real point. So, oh, you're not pretty? Then I can be mean to you. Oh, now you're pretty? Then I must be nice to you. Oh, you're evil? Then you are ugly. Oh, you're the hero? Then you must be beautiful. That's all that there is to it. That's all that they care about. That's it. That's all. So if you're not pretty, you can be evil to them. That's all that matters. That's why we need violence. Yes, Lahonk, I'm on board. Little chaos raven. Beauty and money. Yeah, pretty much. And to be fair, the money was just whatever was beautiful. Shining gold, beautiful diamonds, that sort of thing. It's your time to shine. It really is. You have beauty and money. You can be a garbage person and nobody cares. Honestly, they will tell you that you're still amazing because you are beautiful and have money. Oh, and you have to be happy too. You can't be sad. We don't care if you're sad. For why? If you're sad, you're evil also. You have to be gay, but gay isn't happy. If you were queer gay, these stories would refuse to say that. They would never admit that. Iron Bear says question mark. These stories, they always say oh, and they're the best because they were always happy and always partying, and I'm like, you can have some variation to your emotion stories. Well, whatever. Okay. Anyway, brain. Okay. So, she wants to go to church and no one is paying attention to what the priest says, and they're all so mean. All right. They're all looking too much at her, and the prince fell much more deeply in love with her than he had been before. When the sermon was over and she went out of the church and was just going to mount her horse, the prince again came and asked her where she came from. "I am from Towel Land," said the king's daughter, and as she spoke she dropped her riding whip, and while the prince was stooping to pick it up, she said, "Darkness behind me, but light on my way, that the prince may not see where I'm going today." And so again she's hiding her identity. This is a classic too, where they're why do they have to be so secret about who's pretty and who's not? There's no plot point that needs you to pretend. I don't understand. And yeah, he fell deeply in love. All of their love is based strictly on image, but don't mind that. Anyway, okay. I love, though, that she's like, "I'm from the Bath Land, Towel Land. I don't know. Get me out of here." I need to go to bed. It's getting late. Almost 2 a.m. Yes. Well, I usually end at 2 a.m. Have a wonderful stream. Thank you very much, Darkstorm, and congrats again. Little panty pats. Wiggles. Okay. We'll see you another time. I will say, I think I read your stories recently in my other stream today. If I can pull it up. What did I read today? I think we read SCPs that you recommended. What was the last Darkstorm? Yes, we read 323 today. That was the one that you recommended. So there you go. If you watch back the VOD eventually, that's there. Same, I got caught up and I'm still sleep deprived. Rest well, Darkstorm. Rest well, Cage. You go bed. So the trope of just rub a little dirt on your face. Most beautiful person in the world is now hideous. And they'll never recognize you. That too. Okay, go bed, people. Sleep well. Take care. You scream. Go to bed. Cute. Right, I'll check it out. Yeah, no rush. And I'll put it up on YouTube soon. Not to mention Sailor Moon's tiara. Yes. Oh, yes. I was like, huh? In reference? Oh, yes. My brain was thinking about everybody go to sleep instead. Okay. Where is? Oh, yes, she says, I'm from Towerland. Now get me the fuck away from here. And she was gone again. Neither could the prince see what had become of her. He went far and wide to inquire for that country from whence she had said that she came. But there was no one who could tell him where it lay, so he was forced to have patience once more, because it never existed or it's very far away. I don't know. So we made a formwork foundation. Sadly, didn't get to pour concrete. A small one, though. Ooh, fun. Have fun with the concrete when you get to that. Okay. She was gonna... Yeah, okay. Next Sunday, someone had to go to the prince with a comb. Kari begged for leave to go with it, but the others reminded her of what happened last time, and the time before that probably, and scolded her for wanting to let the prince see her when she was so black and so ugly in her wooden gown. They just said it right out. They said it with their full chest that time. Because you have dirt, and dirt is black, and oh my gosh. But okay, in this sense, they really meant, because she wouldn't have been able to remove that when they thought she was beautiful, so it's got to be dirty. Anyway, but she would not give up asking until they gave her leave to go up to the prince with the comb. Just right out and said it. Of course, they mean dirt, but we also know that they just directly correlate that. Anyway. When she went clattering up the stairs again, out came the prince and took the comb and flung it at her and ordered her to be off as fast as she could. After that, the prince went to church, and Kari also begged for leave to go. Again they all asked what she would do there, she who was so black and ugly, and had no clothes that she could be seen in by other people. Yeah, I don't know why she's still wearing the wooden gown when she chooses that, but she does that. She chooses that. The prince or someone else might very easily catch sight of her, they said, and then both she and they would suffer for it. But Kari said that they had something else to do than look at her, and she never ceased begging until she got leave to go, because she thinks people will pay attention to the priest. And sadly, because we are too inexperienced. Oh, okay. Oh, darn. Well, hopefully you will get the concrete times at some point, and you can write nonsense into it after smoothing it out nicely, or hire a cat to walk across so there's little paw prints. Anyways, I'm off. Good night, everyone. Sleep well. Still feels like I got sawdust in my eye. Oh no. I recommend you cry thoroughly. I mean it. Go watch something super sad and cry so that you get it out of your eyeballs. Whole reasoning behind the hiding the identity makes no sense once again. Well, yeah, they never do. I'm trying. Or maybe go laugh. Watch something stupidly silly. So you laugh until you cry. That's fun. But good luck. I hope your eye feels better. And sleep well. All right. So she's going to go off again to the church. And now all happened just as it happened twice already. She went away to the rock and knocked at it with a stick. Then the man came out. I don't know how we haven't connected the man to probably be, the blue bull? No? Okay. Anyway. The man came out and gave her a gown which was very much more magnificent than either of the others. It was almost entirely made of pure gold and diamonds, and she got a noble horse with housings embroidered with gold and a golden bridle. When the king's daughter came to the church, the priest and people were all standing on the hillside waiting for her. Even the priest is in on it. Oh my gosh. Okay. And the prince ran up and wanted to hold the horse, but she jumped off, saying, "No, thank you, there is no need. My horse is so well broken in that it will stand still when I bid it." Sounds a little like, "Please give me some space, you weirdo. Get back the fuck off." But of course. Anyway, so they all hastened into the church together, and the priest got into the pulpit. But no one listened to what he said. I have to imagine she's listening, at least. But anyway. For they were looking far too much at her and wondering whence she came. And the prince was far more in love than he had been on either of the former occasions, and he was mindful of nothing but looking at her, of course. When... Ooh. Oh, jeez. Just seeing Cage, yeah. Oh, jeez. I like the Three Stooges. Do that one instead. Okay. When the sermon was over, and the king's daughter was about to leave the church, the prince had caused a firkin of tar to be emptied out in the porch in order that he might go help her over it. She, however, did not trouble herself in the least about the tar, but set her foot down in the middle of it and jumped over it, and thus one of her gold shoes was left sticking in it. Very Cinderella. When she had seated herself on the horse, the prince came running out of the church and asked her whence she came. Did anybody else get stuck in the... No? Okay. "From Combland," said Kari. But when the prince wanted to reach her gold shoe, she said, "Darkness behind me, but light on my way, that the prince may not see where I'm going today." I just realized that she said bath because of the water, and then towel because she delivered a towel, and then Combland because she delivered the comb. It wasn't just fully, George Glass. It was like, "Will you take the hint? I am the person that brought you the things." I just put that together. Okay, sorry. From Combland, and then she says to go. The prince did not know what had become of her, so he traveled for a long and wearisome time all over the world. Wow. Asking where Combland was, but when no one could tell him where that country was, he caused it to be made known everywhere that he would marry any woman who could put on the gold shoe. Yep, Cinderella. So fair maidens and ugly maidens came thither from all regions. No medium-looking maidens? No? Okay. Because again, it's just, are you beautiful or not? That makes you good or not, and that's all that matters. Ugh. Okay. But there was none who had a foot so small, oh, small feet, get over it, that she could put on the gold shoe. After a long, long while came Kari Woodengown's wicked stepmother, with her daughter too, and the shoe fitted her. No. That lady showed up in this. We got away from her. She shouldn't show up again. Ugh, but fine. Okay. They very rarely pull in what happened at the start, honestly, with these ones. But okay. So the shoe fitted her. Freaking heck. But she was so ugly and looked so loathsome that the prince was very unwilling to do. Oh, of course we get a raid right near the end of this story. But hello, raid. Caldonia, hello. Thank you for the shout out and welcome there, you guys. Thank you very much for pulling that off. Hello. Welcome in. Oh, invade raid. They're little aliens. Look at that. Look at them. Hellos. Welcome in. Lahonk is excited. Lahonk lights violence. So a raid, totally Lahonk speed. Okay. Oh, I will stretch as Darkstorm has requested. I will stretch now. Oh. Okay. Welcome in. Yes, welcome into them. All right. Come in, settle in. Welcome in. We're just reading the end of this story, and unfortunately, then I'll be wrapping up my stream. But I will be sending out. I think this pairing is great. The nasty dude and the evil stepsister seem like a good pairing. Honestly, they deserve each other. But okay. Yeah, so I was saying that she was so ugly that the prince was very unwilling to do what he had promised. He was like, "No, you're so ugly, there's no way I'm marrying you. Not there's no way you're who I knew, like you don't look like who I fell in love with, but clearly you're too ugly for me to marry you." Jesus. They do belong together. Yikes. Okay. Nevertheless, all was got ready for the wedding. Of course. And she was decked out as a bride, but they were riding to church. But as they were riding to church, a little bird sat upon a tree and sang. Oh, so this is just straight up. It turned from one of the 3 different colors, the silver and copper and gold stories, straight into a Cinderella. Because here we go. Back to the old times with the willow tree and the birds in the trees. A little bird sat upon a tree and sang, "A slice off her heel and a slice off her toes. Kari Woodengown's shoe fills with blood as she goes." And when they looked to it, the bird had spoken the truth, for blood was trickling out of the shoe. So all the waiting maids and all the womenkind in the castle had to, what the fuck? Anyway, had to come and try on the shoe, but there was not one whom it would fit. "But where is Kari Woodengown then?" asked the prince. Oh, so he knows her name. Okay. When all the others had tried on the shoe, for he understood the song of birds, and it came to his mind what the bird had said. Kari Woodengown's shoe. Ooh, so he did know. They all tried on a blood-filled shoe. Very good point. Very, very good point. Up too late. 1, 2, 3. I would not have wanted to do that myself, I don't think. Yeah, let me just put my foot into a shoe that's covered in someone else's blood. This doesn't seem concerning at all. Okay. Okay, where's Kari Woodengown? Since he understood and they said her name in the bird song. Never mind, he knew her name. Anyway, they couldn't clean the shoe. I mean, maybe they did, but knowing them, they did not bother. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Because I kept waiting for the raid to keep going. I don't know why. My brain. I should have said, "Yes, I hope you had a wonderful stream. Welcome in." I haven't clicked to look at your model. I should look at your profile. I can do that here. Yes? Oh, cute. Yes, that is cute. But welcome in. Thing. Stop. Go away. Little. Oh, there. I hope it was a great stream. And thank you. And settle in and take care of yourself if you have to go. I imagine you might have already. But thank you for the rated and welcome everybody else that's joining. Yes, okay. Kari, wouldn't you? Yes. Probably they didn't clean the shoe. He only knows her name because of the song. He never bothered to know wooden gown. You know, the girl in the wooden gown, maybe? No? Okay. Anyway. "Oh, that creature," said the others. "It's not the least use for her to come here, for she has feet like a horse. Did you ever see her feet? 'Cause I don't think that's true. You just know her wooden dress and you make assumptions, because again, you think that she is ugly and therefore she is bad and therefore everything about her is also bad. That's basically how it goes. It's like, oh, you have an ugly dress, which means that you are in entirety ugly. And then your feet are ugly. And then your face is ugly. She's just wearing an ugly dress. That's why people are like, I never recognized you. It's so weird. Their logic, it's so nonsense. Pretty sure he's thrown anything she brought back at her within 0.2 seconds. Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about her. Anyway, so ain't no way he's seen her feet. No. And I don't think the other people that were working in the kitchen with her cared either. Okay, but he says that may be. But as all the others have tried it, Kari may try it too. Kari, he called out through the door, and Kari came upstairs, and her wooden gown clattered as if a whole regiment of dragoons were coming up. Now you are to try on the gold shoe and be a princess, said the other servants, and they laughed at her and mocked her, but she literally is a princess, but okay. Kari took up the shoe, put her foot into it as easily as possible, and then threw off her wooden gown, and there she stood in the golden gown which flashed like rays of sunshine, and on her other foot she had the fellow to the gold shoe. The prince knew her in a moment. Bullshit, but okay. He knew the dress in a moment. And was so glad that he ran and took her in his arms and kissed her. And when he heard that she was a king's daughter, he was gladder still. And then they had the wedding. The end. There was no reference to happy ever after or that she really wanted to be married. Not once did it say that she wanted to be married or even try and marry him. All very sus. All very ridiculous. But that's these fairy tales. They'll do their thing. But this is just the way of this story. Although I was telling someone recently about Jack the Hedgehog because you guys brought it back up, and I have to find it again to send it to them because I was like, oh no, you have no idea. Jack the Hedgehog. Oh my gosh. When he hears King's daughter. Yeah, exactly, long. Typical fairy tale. Lol. Oh no. Yes, Jack the Hedgehog. It must be. I'm pretty sure that he was in the Green Fairy book, right? Where is he? Where is he? Jack my Hedgehog. That's what it is. Jack my Hedgehog, not the Hedgehog. I'm going to have to send this to them. But okay, now I have found it. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone that's been here. Doop, doop. I said doop. And we'll wrap up for tonight. My hedgehog. Tip the hat. I guess in my case, I'd say my hedgehog, and I'd doff my frog and put it back because I'm wearing a... Well, really, I'm wearing a few frogs, but the one is like a hat, and the rest are just hanging out on the antlers today. But yes, I would doff my frog. All right. Alrighty. Ooh. Thank you for joining us. The tiny ones on the antlers are adorable. Thank you. Yes, they all wanted to join. When they knew it was story times, they came in. The one that sits on the rock, we definitely should be naming that one and the one on my head. The hat frog and the rock frog. But well. They're just the little buddies that have joined. But okay. We'll wrap up for the night. Do we have raid recommendations? We will raid out, but I will have to bounce to doing my VOD uploads and tidying up things. And then we'll wrap up. Of course you do, Fet. You so often do. And the honk has a hydrate. I will hydrate. I will follow. Okay. But here we goes. Wacky or normal? I mean, wacky's gonna distract me and probably make me want to stay, but let's go wacky. Let's go wacky. Where are we headed? Oh my goodness. Someone called Natsu. Oh, that reminded me. We never had Natsu pop in, so I had to save the Tir Nanag. But okay, we will go there eventually. We will read that story. Oh, come on. There we go. It's loading. Search. There we go. There we go. Yay. Okay. We will raid into over here. Oh, that looks very fun. I love it. Okay. We are definitely going to have fun. Let's start our raid. I need to copy my message. Oh, come on. Trying to copy my Cozy Frog raid message. There we go. Okay, I ready. Everybody else, you have your message? Are you wet already? Okay. We raided! Yay! Okay, thank you again for watching, everyone. Oh, I didn't change my end screen. Oh well. Alright.